Our panelists will share their personal experience and advice with you about what to consider as you are seeking housing in Portland. And we will attempt to give you information that will allow you to make the best choice for yourself based on what you are looking for in student housing. The advisors and the mentors are not able to find housing for you or to sign leases on your behalf, but we are happy to answer questions and provide our own perspectives from our experience so that you're as well as informed as possible when you're making your housing decision. Today we'll cover a variety of information about different housing options, including homestays, on-campus housing, off-campus apartments and homes, and how to find them, considerations about contracts, and tips for getting along well with a roommate. We have about 15 minutes at the end of the webinar to address your questions. You can ask questions throughout the webinar by typing them into the Q&A function in the webinar. Please do not use the raise hand function or the chat function. The Q&A function allows all participants to see the questions that are being asked, which is helpful for everyone. So please use that platform to ask your questions. We will moderate the questions for you as you type and answer them, and we will answer them live. Or if they are highly personalized questions relating specifically to your case, we may follow up with you personally with an email after the webinar. Before we get into the presentation, I'd like to give our panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves, starting with Alyssa Coida to my right.
My name is Alyssa Coida. I'm a program assistant for the Office of International Student and Scholar Services. I work with the Student Life team as well as students who are sponsored by their home country.
Hello everyone, my name is Ian Mananja and I'm a mentor leader with the International Student Life team. I'm from Zimbabwe and my major is chemistry. When I moved here, I've always lived off campus.
Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie. I do communications for University Housing and Residence Life, which is the on-campus housing option. I've been working at Portland State for about 5 years and I finished my MBA here as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Augustine. I'm from Nigeria. I'm studying mechanical engineering here, and I'm also a mentor leader, and also engineering student ambassador. And I'm pleased to have you all with you here. Cool.
Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek Yadav, and I am a graduate electrical and computer engineering student here, and I have lived off campus for 5 years now in Portland. So I am here to share my experience as well. Hello.
And behind the scenes, we have International Student Life Advisor Yoko Honda. Yoko will be helping our webinar run smoothly today and will be moderating your questions as you type them in. Yoko is a former international student from Japan and a 2-time alumna of PSU. She finished her undergraduate and graduate degrees at PSU and has worked as a student assistant, a graduate assistant, and an international student life advisor in the Office of International Student and Scholar Services. She organizes the International Student Orientation each term, so you likely have already been in contact with her via email. Thank you to Yoko for her help today. And we're going to start off by polling the audience. So we have a question for all of you to answer. You can see it there on your screen right now. Like the majority of our audience is interested in finding an off-campus house or apartment, or maybe on-campus housing as well, and some maybe aren't sure yet. Cool, well, we hope to answer all your questions today.
Okay, so first I am going to touch base on homestays. I know some of you said you are more interested in doing it off campus, but I'm going to talk about the benefits of the homestay and the process to apply if in fact it seems like a good fit for you. So a homestay is a great option for students who want to experience American culture as part of a local family, learn more about U.S. culture, and practice their English with native speakers. All homestays usually include a private room, access to a study area, high-speed internet, meals, and public transportation nearby. So next I'll talk about what it's like to live in a homestay and what the benefits are. So understanding local culture, experiencing firsthand what it's like to live with a homestay family is much different than what you might think. It might be much different from living on your own or learning about it through books or TV. You get the opportunity to discover daily customs and rituals in a typical American home, as well as find out how local families celebrate holidays, enjoy free time, how and what they eat, and how they interact with each other and their way of living. And also you can practice and learn everyday English. So living with a host family will improve your language skills for sure. If you're staying in a home, you will learn words and phrases that are useful in everyday situations, such as the dinner table, talking about your day, understanding basic conversation topics. It's a great way to practice and learn English with people you see every day and are comfortable with. It also allows you to build community and connection. One of the most lasting benefits you may get from staying with the host family is the connection and lasting bond you make. By spending a lot of time with your hosts, you will find out how they live and what their interests are far more easily than you could do in most other circumstances. Most hosts will be available to help you when you have questions about life or culture or are feeling homesick, and will include you in family celebrations and activities. You will essentially become a part of their family. So, how to apply for a homestay? Most commonly, homestays are a one-term commitment or longer, but can be month to month depending on the organization you sign up through. There are 2 local providers in the Portland area, including Ondeo Homestays and Focus Homestays. So each organization will have a slightly different application process and pieces included in the homestay itself. I haven't listed here in the webinar, but they're listed on our housing webpage online, and your international student mentor can provide you with more specific information on each organization. And also to keep in mind that the application process from when you begin to when you move in with a host family is generally about a month. So if you are interested, make sure you plan ahead for that as well. And what is availability like? You want to make sure that you are applying early and are detailed in your application, because this will help the organization match you with a family that fits your interests. It's important to let them know if you have any allergies, enjoy like pet animals, what your hobbies are, if you're shy or outgoing, if you're used to a more quiet environment or outgoing family, or enjoy the company of children. And that will really, the more detailed you are, will help in matching a family that best fits your needs. And then important things to know, especially about homestay, is that it can be quite different from what you expect. The U.S. is a very diverse place, and each family will have their own unique take on American culture and their way of living. So, for example, hosts can range from single parents to older adults, or families with young or older children. So it's really important to be flexible and have an open mind, and willing to try new things. But I definitely think it's a great experience to kind of get you settled and situated in the U.S. with a family.
So next I'm gonna hand it over to Augustine, who will talk about his experience living with a homestay.
All right. Once again, my name is Augustine. In my first time here, I lived with the host family, and his name was Alan, and it was a great experience because I left my family and I came here, so they became my new family. I get to eat like homely made food, and yeah, they were just like a family to me. We watch TVs together, we go out together, we shop together, and they taught me a lot of stuff. Like, I didn't own a car immediately. Like, I arrived here, and so they showed me how to use Android apps to navigate all the public transportation here in Portland. And they also showed me several places I can shop at, at affordable prices. It was a great experience. Like Alisa said earlier, it's a good way to improve your English, your communication skills because, yeah, this is their culture, it's good to, to learn from first hand and, when you first arrive.
All right, let's do another poll. And you can see, what do you look for in your housing choices? And choose all that apply. Privacy, kitchen, location, close to campus will be an ideal, cost, pet friendly, and other. It looks like a location is a key for everyone, 100%. And a cost is next. 94% of you said that it's important. Privacy is 56% of you. Kitchen, 61% of you. Not so much about pet friendly. Maybe you don't have a pet yet. And other for 10%. All right, now we are moving into Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. As you mentioned earlier, my name is Stephanie, and I work in our university housing and residence life, which is our on-campus housing. And on the slide, it calls us the residence halls. But what is a little bit unusual about Portland State housing is that most of our housing options do have a private bathroom and some kitchen facilities. So that may be a little bit different from when you see an American dorm in the movies. And when we talk about what the benefits are to living on campus, a lot of times the first thing students think about is the cost and convenience. So we're right on campus. All of your classes are 5 to 7 minutes away. Your bill is sent to your student account, so the same place that you would pay for tuition, and tends to be very affordable. For upperclassmen, we have options from $566 per month, and for freshmen, $613 per month, which includes the internet and utilities, which are often separate charges for an apartment. But when we talk about living on campus, we actually prefer to talk about the community that you build when you live on campus. So much like the homestay, a lot of the benefit is really around meeting your fellow students, having the quintessential college experience of possibly having a roommate,
You may be surprised to hear that University Housing and Residence Life, we have over 800 events per year. So that's more than 2 events every day for our on-campus residents. So we're pretty invested in making sure that you meet your fellow students and build community at Portland State outside of the classroom. We also have academic support for our on-campus residents. There is an in-hall after-hours academic support hub. We call it University Success, and it's open until 10 p.m. So most offices on campus may close around 5 p.m. This is a great resource if you have questions. Maybe you got a late start to that first paper, or you need someone to help you use your Google Calendar, or you need to get connected to a campus resource. That's something that we think is really important to have accessible. For those of you who are thinking about living on campus, we do still have space available for the fall. The website is on the slide. It's pdx.edu/housing. If you log in, you can see the availability for different units. So if you're looking for something specific, you can see if that is available. Something else to consider is that the contract is for the academic year, and we don't close during breaks. So if you move in the fall, you can stay through all holidays, all breaks, but do keep in mind that the campus can be a little bit quieter during those times, and if you decide to have a meal plan, some of your dining options may be a little bit more limited during that time. I think on the slide it has the optional early move-in for international students, so you can move in a little bit earlier, September 18th, 19th, and 20th. Otherwise, the regular move-in, when all of the other students will show up in your hall, will be September 26th and 27th. And do you have another poll? Or? I think now Ian's going to tell us a little bit about some off-campus housing and how to find them. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. So most of you have showed interest in off-campus housing. So 2 things to think about when you're looking for off-campus housing is convenience to campus, and also the cost of the apartment or the house. And some advantages of living off campus are it can be affordable because you have different options and different residential places that you can choose from. The neighborhoods are more quieter compared to the downtown area, and you have easy access to international markets to buy like food from your home. But some disadvantages are it might take longer to commute to school, and you have to plan everything around the bus schedule or the train schedule. And in case of extreme weather, which doesn't happen often here in Portland, but it has happened, there might be delays or cancellation of the public transport, so you might be stuck. And also it might be challenging just living off campus when you don't have a car. But having said that, one thing you will hear a lot when you move to Portland is the great public transportation system that we have here. So you have the train option, you have the bus, you have the streetcar, and you have the bike. There is also bike friendly here. So you can get a train and a bus pass that is of reduced price through the transportation office. So, and the streetcar is for free. So when you look through neighborhoods to live off campus, just bear in mind what mode of transport are available. So Portland is divided into downtown area where PSU is located, and it might take up to 15 minutes to walk to campus, which is great if you like morning walks or walking. In the northwest area, it's up to 3 miles from PSU, and the streetcar goes there. There's bus also, there are buses. You can actually walk or bike to campus. For the north and northeast region area, it's up to 9 miles from campus, and it takes from 10 to 30 minutes car ride or up to 40-minute bus or train ride. And when you look to the east of Portland, it's like a 30-minute car ride or up to 60 minutes an hour bus ride. The southeast area is up to 30-minute car ride or up to 40 minutes bus ride or streetcar also goes there, and other people actually bike to campus. Southwest area is up to 30-minute car ride and 60-minute bus or bike, and train is limited in the southeast area or southwest area. There are neighborhoods that surround the Portland area where some students choose to live, like Beaverton, which is like 9 miles away from campus. Hillsborough, I lived in Hillsborough, it's like 20 miles away from campus, and it's like an hour train ride. Tigard area, I also lived in Tigard. It's like 9 miles from campus, like a 20-minute bus ride. Lake Oswego, 9 miles from campus. Oregon City, 20 miles. Gresham, 17 miles. And Vancouver, Washington, which is 10 miles from campus. So just when you're looking for off-campus housing, one thing you will hear a lot is a security deposit. So most apartment complex, they ask for a security deposit, and it's typically charged based on your credit history, which you might not have established when you move to the US. And so when you don't have a credit history, they might ask for a month or 1.5 months worth of rent as the deposit. Some apartment complex, like the CHNW, which Abhishek will talk about, they have set security deposit and they don't ask for your credit history. So some things to think about when you live on campus. Utilities are typically charged separately. Things like gas. Some apartments use gas, electricity, garbage, water and sewer, and also internet. You have to look for an internet provider for yourself. I would advise for you to check the apartment complex website to see what amenities are provided. And if you're not sure about an apartment, you can, I would advise to like sign a month contract, not a 6 months or a year contract, just so that you're not bound to the contract. There's also a non-refundable application fee for most apartments, and they will do a background check. Some apartments will ask for a co-signer or a guarantor. Let's say you don't make 2 times your rent, so they will ask somebody to co-sign the lease for you. Typically, the lease 6 months, 12 months, or 14 months. In downtown area, some apartments will ask for renter's insurance, and you need to find it for yourself. I would advise you can also ask the office so that they can recommend which renter's insurance that is typically used. And there is a resource for off-campus housing on the slide, the International Student Life, International Student Housing. You can click that link. And also I would advise you to join some Facebook groups. They are helpful to find off-campus housing. And I will hand over to Abhishek to tell us about his experience of living off-campus.
Hi again, guys. I'm Abhishek here. So I'm here to talk about College Housing Northwest, which is, we call it as CHNW. And in off-campus housing, I think this is a really popular choice if you want to explore. And the process to apply here, as Ian has already talked about, they usually take security deposit. And also, you might just need to submit your passport and I-20, like the copies of passport and I-20. And yeah, so and rent is usually from 950 to 1300. 950 for a studio and 1300 for a 2 BHK, and 1 BHK is around 1100. And it might change or increase, it does every year. And there are 3 different communities for CHNW near the campus. They are 5 to 15 minutes away from campus. That is the only slight negative of living there. But that is also taken care of them by giving us an option of using a shuttle. So there is a shuttle service every half an hour for most part of the day from Goose Hollow community, which is like 15 minutes away from the campus, to the campus. So yeah, and why I chose to live in CHNW apartment is like because I like some kind of stability and control in my housing. So and I like that kind of regulation with my food as well in my apartment. So I cook my own food, and I also choose my roommates like because I have been a researcher here for 4.5 years now. So it's good to be able to see what roommates we are going to live with. They might be of your same culture or different cultures, but you have that option of choosing. So yeah, and the advantages of living in CHNW community is that it's a good community for students. So only students can live there. You have to show that you are at least taking 1 credit per term in any college or university. And yeah, the second advantage is it has really responsive leading office, and they are also good at like responding to our maintenance requests as well. And it also has like silent hours between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. And again, the one more advantage that I would like to reiterate again is that if you like living in a house with a kitchen and roommates of your choice, then in off-campus, CHNW is the best option. And it's relatively expensive if you share a room with maximum allowed roommates. And that is what I do. Like we live in like a 1 bedroom hall kitchen, and in that we are 3 people. So our rent gets divided by 3. So as you said in the poll, as you guys said in the poll, that cost is also important. So sometimes cost comes down because of this reason. And also it's a great experience, like connecting with people of your culture or not your culture, like living together in close quarters. So it's a great experience as well. So yeah, that's it from my side. And the next, we'll give.
We have a question.
We have questions.
Yes.
Okay, and here to take your questions.
All right, the question is from Andericus. Are there apartments off campus that have shuttles that transport students to different parts of town at regular intervals in the course of the day? I know Portland has a great public transportation, but a shuttle would be great to have too. So Akshik mentioned about the shuttle that goes to campus. So if you could talk more about that, that would be nice. And then if you have any other apartments that do that.
Yes, so if you live around Goose Hollow or in the Goose Hollow community, there is a shuttle that goes from Goose Hollow, which is like 15 minutes away from campus to the campus. And also, they also have grocery runs, but this is specific to Goose Hollow community. And if you have a friend living there, even if you're not living in Goose Hollow, but you have a friend living or somebody who can just inform you, oh, there is a grocery run to Winco or like sometimes India Marts as well. So you could like go with them. It's usually on the weekend in the evening, so it's a good time to do that as well. So I know about my community, and this is what I have to answer.
And then following up with the Goose Hollow and then the College House in Northwest. Regarding CSNW Goose Hollow, I saw the website, but I didn't find any openings. Will it open sometime later?
Yeah, so because this is a popular choice among many students of different universities, there might be less openings. But what you could do is that, of course, there is one option of waiting till an opening comes up on the website. The second option is maybe look into like different cultural groups on Facebook as well, because people tend to post if they want to transfer their lease. Because some people like to transfer the lease to people of their culture or their friends, something like that. So you could check for those kind of posts on like community groups online on Facebook, and also we have an international students page as well on Facebook that we have already shared with you. So yeah, you might get some students like that who wants to transfer their lease or are looking for roommates. So always like if you are proactive online right now, that would be a good chance for you to get into whatever kind of housing you want.
Any more questions?
And then you mentioned about the Facebook group, and is there a PSU service that helps international students connect locally so they can plan possibly living together and sharing expenses?
Okay, so yeah, when you first start from your own home country and try to arrive at an international school for education. So what happens is that from my experience, I have seen that we usually try to join different Facebook groups, and when I was coming here, I have not seen like a PSU group, especially for off-campus housing. At least there will be some options for uh, on-campus housing for sure that PSU has provided. But you might find some groups like if you search even right now. So there is like Portland State University housing, comma sublets and roommates. So the and is ampersand if you want to search it right now. So there is a group. I don't think this is an official PSU group. This is just a public group made by some student when they were living here. And they have different options for you as well. So yeah, this is what we as a community of students do here sometimes, because there are only some things that PSU could officially do. So we sometimes try to do it from our part. Okay, that ends my answer.
So I think something important to talk about and make sure you all know about it a little bit is housing contracts. And so Stephanie's going to talk about on-campus housing contracts, and Ian will talk a little bit about off-campus housing contracts next, so that you're aware of those.
So this is Stephanie, and for on-campus contract, the term is the academic year. So it is for if you're starting in fall, it would be for the fall, winter, and spring term. If you start in the winter, it would be for the winter and spring term. And if you start in the spring, it would be for the spring term. And then we have a separate contract for summer because a lot of students will go home for the summer or not take classes. So that would be considered a separate contract. So you can decide if you want to stay or not. For on-campus housing, we mentioned earlier, it includes all of the utilities and internet. It's also billed per term instead of per month, so it's billed to your student account. You can enroll in the PSU payment plan if you want to separate the payment into 3 separate payments, but it's all done through your student account. And now I will pass it over for off-campus housing contract.
Okay, so this is Ian, and when you're signing a contract, just make sure to take time to read everything on your contract. And if you're in doubt, ask your mentor, ask the manager of the building. You can also ask an advisor. Uh, when you become a student, you have the access to student legal services, which is for free, and they will be happy to go over the contract with you and explain some things that you're not sure. So when you get the contract, make sure to check for the charges that are on the contract. Make sure you agree with everything and check for any fees. If pets are allowed, and some apartments will charge like an extra cost for having pets. Check for if smoking is allowed, or some apartments are really strict about having roommates or visitors, so they have those regulations like somebody cannot stay with you for 10 days continuously. Check what utilities are included in your contract. And before you sign your contract, you really want to make sure you see the apartment and use the checklist that they give you, that everything is fine, nothing is broken. And you can actually take pictures of the place just as evidence if anything goes wrong. But if you sign the contract and you no longer want to live there, you can still break the lease, but there might be some charges associated with breaking the lease. So also check how much it will be to break your lease. So yeah, that's it.
I have one question about a lease. So if we are going to transfer the lease in College Housing Northwest, how to make sure that lease is clean? I'm assuming that maybe the room is clean as well.
Yeah.
They mean that it's in their name.
Yeah, so I think I had this question from one of my mentees earlier, and the way I see this kind of an issue is that you could always, I guess, try to communicate with the building office, with the leasing office, and ask them to check if the room is clean and does not have pests as well. Because I think these are the two important things that you need to take care of. If the room is clean and it does not have pests, so that you will know that you would not incur like additional any kind of cost because of the person before you. But usually I have seen that because we are just students here, so there might be, like when they go and see, there might be some kind of garbage line here or there, but there won't be any big issue where you, even they or you have to pay a lot, because even my room was a transfer, and I had to clean it by myself when I began staying there, because you don't get a clean room if you are getting a transfer. But after that, I just made it home. So it's a matter of just like making them check for pests and some bigger kind of issues, like if there is a hole in the wall or something like that. So yeah, so please do that as well. And here is Stephanie for more answer.
I just want to make sure that we are answering the question, because sometimes when people talk about a clean lease, they're talking about having their own name listed on the lease as opposed to a sublet. So that would be something to discuss with the property manager. There are some reasons why you might not want someone else's name on your lease, or maybe you do want their name on the lease. So that just refers to who they will contact and who will be responsible if anything happens to the property.
Right, so we are doing another poll. Now you can see, have you ever had a roommate? So having a roommate in the United States is common. Seems like it's a well balanced. So 47% of you said yes, you have had a roommate before, and 53% of you said no, you have not yet. Right. Thank you very much for the poll. And then now Rachel is going to talk about roommate.
Okay, yeah, as people have been mentioning, it's really common in the US for college students to live with one or even many roommates in a one-room apartment because, I mean, whether they're on campus or in an apartment, because it just helps to cut your costs and keep things cheaper. And it can be really fun too. If you don't already know somebody, you might be wondering, how can I find someone to live with so that I can share some costs? So if you're planning to live on campus, the good news is that a lot of that is handled already for you. Unless you specify that you have a certain person that you want to live with, and they also specify that they want to live with you, the housing office will assign you a roommate. And so when you complete your housing contract paperwork, you can give information about your lifestyle and your preferences, such as when you like to study or when you like to sleep, and then they'll match you with someone who has indicated that they have a similar lifestyle. If you're hoping to live off campus in an apartment, it's a lot more random, and you kind of, a lot of that burden of finding someone to live with is put on you. So you might be wondering how to do this. So some Facebook groups were mentioned. There's the names of the Facebook groups are there on the slide. If you want to check those out, there's frequently postings on those. You can also email us at intl-life@pdx.edu with a message about what you're looking for in housing, or if you already have housing but you're trying to find a roommate to share costs with, and we can get that information posted for you. There's also, as someone mentioned, there's many student groups at PSU that have really tight connections with their members, and they frequently share this kind of information among them. And so one of them is the Indian Student Association, for example. You can find their Facebook info and get connected to them. And then if someone has heard of a room open or others are looking for roommates, they can contact you. You could also ask your mentor to see if they know anybody who's looking for a roommate, and they could ask around other mentors or to their friends and try to find you a connection. So anytime you're living in a shared space with someone else, there's bound to be some kind of conflict or confusion, and we hear this a lot from our international students. Ian has had some experience with roommates from his culture and also from other cultures, and he's going to share a little bit about his tips for keeping the peace.
Thank you, Rachel. So when I moved to Portland, I lived with a person from my culture from Zimbabwe, and we were also studying the same major. So for 1 year we lived, and there was really no issues, because most of the time we shared the same food, we shared the same values, we have mutual respect, we have things in our culture that we both observe. So it was much easier. So when we moved out, I started also living with a person from my culture, also studying the same major, and it was the same thing, and we lived for 2 years together. And so when we decided to part ways, I started living with somebody, an American, a roommate, and so we lived for 2 months, and I didn't like sharing space with him. Not that he was a bad person, but it did not work out. Part of it is, like, looking back, one thing I didn't do when I moved in with him is, like, I didn't ask specific questions about his personality, his preferences, what he preferred to do in the apartment. And so one thing I would encourage you to do is to really ask specific questions to your roommate, things that you value the most. You can ask them if they smoke, what kind of food do they eat. Some people have dietary restrictions based on religion or preference. What kind of foods do you not eat? Because you might be sharing like the kitchen together, so you want to know those kind of things. Do they have pets or not? Would you prefer having them or not? You can ask them what is the main reason that they want a roommate. Some people just want somebody to split rent with. So if you're looking for somebody to be friends with, then it's a different case, so it will not work. What time do they usually go to bed? That's really important if you like sleeping like me. So the time they go to bed is really important. What time do they study? What are their quiet hours? So if it's that time of the day where you actually want to play music and have fun, so it will not work out. What time do they cook and eat their meals? Like some foods can have a really like strong smell, so you just want to know, do they like to party? That's really important. If you're a quiet person, like personally, I like quiet living area. I don't want to get to my house, to my apartment, and there are random people I don't know that would just put me off. Do they use drugs or do they drink? That's really important. You as an international student, you're governed by the federal regulation, things like marijuana or things like that you don't want to be associated with. You can ask them to describe their personality. If it matches your personality, then you can be roommate. And what do they like doing during their free time? Do they like clean areas or some clutter? Did they ever have a roommate? You can ask them and what was their experience. So those are the things you need to have a conversation with your potential roommate and decide for yourself. If it doesn't work out, then you better off without that person.
Yeah, my name is Augustine. Just wanted to add a little bit to that. Sometimes it's really difficult to get to know your roommate, because sometimes you don't really know much about your roommate, or you get to know much about them when you start living with them. And also, it's difficult to break a lease, So that's why I would say I'm not like I would say on-campus housing is kind of more flexible with that, because when you live with the roommate, and you have issues with the roommate, you can apply for a room change. So it's housing, on-campus housing that will deal with that. And because if you have a lease off campus with somebody and you decide to break the lease, sometimes it could be expensive to pay the rent until you get another roommate. But when you live on campus, school housing will do that for you. So I would say if you're not sure about having, about your roommate, or you just want to know more about Portland or people you want to roommate with, I would say it's better to, stay on campus for a while, then, make a friends, if you get to know them better, then you can decide, okay, I want to live with you. Right?
And then lastly, I know that Ian already touched upon the security deposit and renter's insurance. I just wanted to touch base about other important information you might want to consider when you're thinking about living off campus. So yeah, security deposit, it's a prepayment to the landlord to ensure rent will be paid and other responsibilities performed, such as paying for damage, costs to the apartment, or having to remove items after a move out. And most off-campus housing options will require a security deposit, and this is separate from normal rent. And it's usually given back at the end of the lease as long as the terms have been fulfilled and the space is in good condition. So keeping in mind that you might be paying your first month's rent as well as an additional sum of money. Renter's insurance, this is also often called a tenant's insurance. It's a policy that helps protect you and your belongings. So it usually covers liability protection, protection against your belongings, and additional living expenses in the case of temporary relocation. And this is very affordable. It's usually around $15 or $20 per month, and there are many different companies that provide this service. Another thing to keep in mind is the community guidelines for the place you're living. So some shared spaces, such as apartments and dormitory halls, will have a set of community guidelines that can be official or unofficial rules about behavior in the shared space and your own room. This could include and policies such as scents or smells, quiet hours, like the way of interacting with other tenants. And lastly, just to cover pets, various housing types will have very different rules around pets. So if you have or you plan to obtain a pet while you are here, please make sure that it's okay with your landlord. Most housing options will require an additional cost, either in the form of a pet deposit or additional rent. And it can also be difficult to find housing with pets, so please make sure you plan accordingly.
All right, now we are moving to Q&As, and we have 3 questions for Stephanie related to on-campus housing. So the first one is, does on-campus housing have provisions for married students, or are they strictly designed for single students who live with roommates?
Yeah, if you are married, when you fill out the housing contract, you do need to submit documentation of your marriage or your domestic partnership. So we do allow spouses and children on campus. You just have to show that they are indeed your spouse or child.
So another question is, I am yet to get my student ID card. Will I be allowed to move in on campus without it? And if not, how can I get my card before moving in?
The ID services office is open during typical business hours, so Monday through Friday, I believe 9 to 5. So when you come to move in, after you park and get comfortable, then the next step would be to go to the ID services office and get your PSU student ID, and then check in with the housing office because you will use your student ID card to enter the buildings and use the elevator in the buildings.
And another question is, if I sign a contract for early move-in, will there be additional charges? Also, after moving early, can I leave the room and come back on a general student's move-in day?
So for early move-in, the cost will be prorated. So that means that they figure out how much the contract breaks out by day, and then they would add that amount. But once you have your key, you can spend as much time or as little time in your room as you want.
Okay, so this question is for everyone. Could each panelist share their biggest lesson learned if they already live off campus?
Yeah.
The biggest lesson is for me was my primary goal to be here was school. So living off campus for me meant living closer to campus, but still off campus. So living far away in as much as I was saving, but it was just frustrating for me to get to campus. So I ended up living closer to campus, but still off campus.
Hey guys, this is Abhishek Yadav. So the biggest lesson I have learned is that because I need some kind of stability and control from my house, and after that everything inside it could be like really of my wavelengths and my energy. So I have seen that while taking in roommates in my house, because I am a researcher and many of the roommates that I had were like just non-thesis students. So they used to come in and again leave in like one year or so. So that was too much for me to handle for 4 years. So now I like to live with people who share my energy. Like right now, I'm living it with a researcher, and also there is other thesis student coming in. So sometimes I think that it's good to live with people with your wavelengths. It's much better that way. Yeah. So next is Augustine.
Hi, this is Augustine. Well, one thing I like about off-campus housing, is that in the US you're here to educate yourself, but also to experience the culture. So living off campus kind of give you a wider experience of the culture, which I love. But the downside of it is that it was difficult for me to commute to campus. In my first year, I did a lot of projects, with group members, and here students are always busy. We have schools and we have jobs. So having a schedule that matches with us is really difficult. Sometimes, we get to do it in the evening when we all have finished our classes and our job. So, and it's a project, you can't really predict the time it's gonna take you to do, so for me, I'm always conscious of the time. Oh, I don't want to miss the bus to get home. So yeah, that was really difficult for me. And also, I lived with some roommates, and yeah, I like them. They were awesome people, but they didn't stay as long as I wanted. At some point, they said, "Oh, I'm gonna move to somewhere else," and me, I'm like, "Oh, how do I start finding another roommate?" So it was a rush, so that was why I moved to on-campus housing, because I'm like, oh, if I move to on-campus housing, if I have a roommate because I wanted something cheap, when a roommate moves out, oh well, school housing is gonna deal with that. So yeah, that's my experience with off-campus housing.
Another question, are Goose Hollow apartments semi-furnished? Do they provide basic furnitures like bed, study tables? And when living off campus, how much hassle is to avail or apply for utilities like gas, Wi-Fi, and so on?
So let's begin with what do you get when you live off campus in Goose Hollow community or CHNW community. So usually, because if you guys have not been to America earlier or don't know how the houses work, usually you get a refrigerator and also like a cooking stove, and sometimes it might be a coil which provides heat, and also yeah, it's usually an apartment complex is that, and also we get a convection oven. So these are the 3-4 things, and also the cabinets in the kitchen. So these are the 3-4 things that we get. And if you, from my perspective, it's good enough furnished for me to make my own house. And yeah, so, and I have also lived off campus in other apartments such as View Apartments and Park Plaza. So if you live in those kind of apartments, then you have to pay for utilities as well. And sometimes the utilities for that, like 4 years before now, was like $100 for a month. But in Goose Hollow, we don't pay for utilities. We just have to pay for our own Wi-Fi, which is around 50 to 100, how much ever speed you need. And yeah, that's all you have to pay in Goose Hollow. It's usually just rent and Wi-Fi. Yeah, and when I say Goose Hollow, I mean CHNW. So, yeah. Thank you.
So one thing is CHNW has a new building called the Amy. And so with the Amy, it's fully finished with a bed, a table, and all the basic like furniture. So yeah, so it's a furnished apartment.
That's it. No more questions. All right, that brings us to the end of our time together. Thank you so much for attending our webinar, and we hope you've gotten your questions answered and that you're excited to join PSU. We're excited to have you. We'll be emailing a feedback form to you tomorrow, so please complete that brief survey as it will help us improve our future webinars for students. Thank you again and have a great rest of your day.